To police officers, how are you feeling seeing how the situation was handled in Texas? My city had a mass shooting where 10 people died 3 years ago. It took 6 responding officers 32 seconds to kill the active shooter. My coworker is a relative of one of the officers who responded that night. She told us that he thinks these cops deserve to burn in hell for abandoning those children. Not a cop but did do fire for a bit. I'm not a brave person at all, and I'm not going to pretend to be some hairy-assed hero. But what we do is a service. We're here for them. When it's time to go, then it's time to go. No shit, you're scared. So is everyone else going interior. That doesn't mean you don't do it. Because as scared as you are, the person trapped inside is fucking terrified, and has none of the protection that you do. I honestly consider their response not just to be incompetence, since that assumes good intent and just being a fuck up. In my eyes this was dereliction of duty. Especially if the bit about cops going in to save their own kids and leaving the rest is true. Or the part about Border Patrol going inside in defiance of orders. I don't think it's unfair at all to say people should be going to prison over this. Military police here, I am angry beyond words at the tragedy that has taken place. MP training is direct to threat, and even without hearing gunshots we are required to breach the building and begin securing it, so if people are shot inside we can create a clear corridor for casualties to be collected and treated. These cowardly pieces of shit should turn in their badges and be held accountable for their inaction. As a motorway police inspector, I got 2 bullets in my left leg while making a bus hijack go unsuccessful. I was succeeded, and remember, no matter if a bullet shattered my heart. At that time, what matters was the countless lives of innocent people. Sorry for my basic English. I literally never comment on anything but felt like I should here. I've only been on the job for a year and change in the largest department in America, and while we're definitely not perfect, I've been to a few shootings personally, and even with shots ringing out within visual range I've never seen any one of my coworkers run away or just wait for ESU cause they could get shot, and I know I've never ran away. While I can understand being afraid, I can't understand not doing your job. We're first responders, and as such it's our job to go in there and get it done. Back up be damned. I hate Monday night quarterbacking, but I've risked my life on this job for way less so when other officers wait idle while kids get gunned down. It makes me mad. Deleted. As an active police officer of 22 years, I would have died trying to prevent even one additional child from being harmed. I could not live with myself knowing that I stood outside while children were dying inside. Words cannot describe my disgust for what has happened there. My heart aches for both the deceased and their loved ones. I hope they fire everyone who did nothing and the judge tosses any criminal charges against parents. Just typing this and saying it out loud has gotten me all fired up again. Retired Leo, the words disbelief and disgusted hardly scratch the surface. Charge all of them with negligent homicide / involuntary manslaughter. To add to the points the others are making, imagine the effect on the children's parents. They already have the horror of their child being killed, knowing that their last moments were filled with terror and pain, but that's now compounded by the thought that their child could have been saved, if it were not for the cowardice of the people they trusted to protect them. These poor souls are now broken. Deleted. Ashamed of this agency and their so-called chief. If the shooter is isolated, you wait because time is on your side to negotiate. If they are actively shooting people, action must be taken. Just because the SCOTUS says there's no duty to intervene, I think most LE agencies' policy and, obviously, public opinion beg to differ. Kind of disgusted by all of the attempts at covering up what those officers did as well. In Britain, there was an attacker with a machete on London Bridge and our unarmed police officers ran towards him with only pepper spray and batons, literally hitty sticks. In fact, one was an off-duty transport police officer with no gear at all. I can't fathom the slowness of the response in Texas. Federal law enforcement here. I took a one-day active shooter training last year. The theme they kept hammering into us was stop the killing, so you can stop the dying. Meaning, you need to find the shooter as fast as possible to kill or incapacitate him. Nothing else matters before then. They had role players with like fake blood / injury kits on screaming for help, and we just stepped around / over them in our way towards the sound of gunfire. Once the shooter is dead, then you sprint back and start evacuating and treating people. Also, you go in alone or grab a couple other responders on your way in. You don't methodically clear rooms, you don't secure stuff, and you certainly don't try to do crowd control. I see a lot of people on Reddit say standard police procedure is, fill in the blank, and they are usually wrong. However, almost everyone is exactly right on what I've seen about active shooter training. And it's been that way since fucking Columbine. There is no excuse for police leadership in Uvalde to not know this. Typically I try to not judge people in these scenarios because there's so many different factors and challenges that affect your decision making. However, in this case, and in Parkland, fuck these guys. They should be fired and never work in law enforcement again. A lot of people, some police included, sometimes think that valor is like an everyday thing. It's definitely not, that's why we hand out medals for it, but to see officers just stand outside that classroom as children were shot and bleeding to death is awful and unforgivable. Disgusted. My department had an all-cops run-in strategy ready to go. We even had an airport stairs on a pickup truck to drive to the side of the school if it was a hostage situation on the second floor. We coordinated with firefighters to have multiple cops on the platform on top of the ladder on the fire trucks, and the fire trucks would drive us up to the sides of the school and the cops would make entry through the windows. We practiced breaking down the doors, and also practiced breaking through the drywall and studs if the door was barricaded. We were told any cop who didn't go into a school shooting situation unless told by the chief otherwise would be fired. We were also told that if we kneeled on any suspect we would be fired, and the chief would recommend to the DA to charge us, and would give the evidence themselves. This was also well before BLM. When I see shitty cops clowning around I am pissed. That's why cops all over have bad names. It's because of clowns like these. What they teach us is that you have to enter, even if that means by yourself. You go in and eliminate the threat. If you've got someone else there with you, cool, but you may have to go in on your own. What's the creepiest thing your child ever said to you? My son tells me stories of scary Uncle Michael in his bedroom at night. He says he's a gray man that looks like his uncle and he climbs on walls and calls out to him, and one night he tried to eat him. Yep, nightmare fuel. My 3-year-old granddaughter said, "Grandma, I just saw a man with no eyes go upstairs." My little sister had some creepy moments when we were younger. She often claimed that people were in her bathroom at night talking, and watching her. She called them Poe and the Tape Monster. There are a couple stories regarding them, both funny and creepy. One night she woke up scared and went to my parents' room to sleep with them. Before she went back to sleep, she used their bathroom, and when she came out she said, "Why are there people in your bathroom, Mommy?" Dad was out of town. Mom still swears this was the scariest thing any of my siblings ever did. While I was driving my 4-year-old nephew around, he spent a solid few minutes telling me about the dead body he stashed in my trunk. This was a long time ago, and as far as I know he isn't a serial killer. Creepy and funny. My youngest once said to me, "I could make 3 baby hands out of your hand meat." My kid keeps talking about the babies in the walls of his bedroom. Very off-putting. When I was your age. Then tells a random story. My other mommy before you. Then tells a random story. My mom loves telling me the story about the time I discovered hypnotism. When I was 4, I found out about hypnotism. I don't remember how, but apparently I became fascinated by the idea of having mind control abilities. One day, my mom says my grandpa loaded me into the car for one of our normal grocery store outings only for him to return an hour later furious. After he calmed down, he told my mom that I refused to stop staring him down in the rear-view mirror with a very serious look on my face. He had asked me to stop on several occasions, but said I never really replied. I just kept staring menacingly. Then, he said all of a sudden I looked into his eyes and said, "Papa, I'm going to hypnotize you. I'm going to put my toe in your mouth." My mom said she thought it was funny at the time, but couldn't laugh because my grandfather was seriously so enraged. Edit. Just to say thank you to everyone for liking my story. I ended up having my grandfather for 16 more years and he was my best friend. Definitely thought it was more funny than creepy, but when my kid was 2 he was scribbling on a piece of paper and quietly saying, to the tune of "Row, row, row your boat, scrape, scrape, scrape your eyes today." My youngest, was 4, was on the carpet playing with his cars. "Son, I can't wait to get a new house when this house explodes." Me half listening, "Ahoy, sure that sounds wait, what?" "Son, yeah, when our house explodes, be ready and well just run out real fast," and then he turned back to playing with cars like nothing was said. Thankfully that was 5 years ago, and my house has not exploded. My ex-father-in-law died a couple years before my daughter was born, so she never met him. He was known as a pretty funny guy, always quick with a one-liner. As strange as it sounds, there were no pictures of him around until my daughter was about 4 years old and my ex-mother-in-law set one next to the urn where his ashes were kept. The first time my daughter saw the picture she pointed to it and said, "That's Grandpa. I like when he looks in my window and makes me laugh. I don't like his friends, though." She had never mentioned this. When I tried to ask her about it, she seemed nonchalant. She's older now and says she doesn't remember it. I'll never forget it. Just after my little brother was born, my mom, 3yo sister and I were talking about what not to do around the baby. Things like not leaving small toys out or throwing balls around the baby. After a few minutes my sister chimed in and said, "And you don't cut off baby's lips with a sharp knife. Do you like burning?" The new little girl neighbor. It was a Saturday morning a few years ago, and my wife and I were still in bed, and she was trying to convince me to make pancakes for breakfast. My oldest son, about 6 at the time, came into the room and agreed with her. He then said, "You should make some for Tyler, too." Now, he had never had imaginary friends, and we didn't have anybody in the house or family named Tyler, so I was curious and asked him who Tyler was. "Tyler is the man sleeping in my bed." Anyway, turns out a local teenager had gotten piss drunk the night before, jumped into the local public swimming pool, gotten separated from his friends and wandered into my house, thinking it was his friends, very suburban, all houses very similar, and passed out on my son's bed in his wet chlorinated clothes. My son thought this was fine and went downstairs to watch TV in the living room until he fell asleep on the couch, which was apparently the height of awesome for a 6-year-old. We called the cops. He was incredibly embarrassed, apologetic, and still quite drunk, and they came and took him home. How come you're not waking up tomorrow? How do you feel about Beto O'Rourke interrupting the town hall meeting to speak? Honestly, my opinion is that this is literally the place for it, and escorting someone out of a town hall meeting for voicing their opinion is absurd. If you can't disagree in a public town hall meeting, when the fuck can you? Apparently it wasn't a town hall meeting, it was a press conference. I still have my own personal opinion on whether it was reasonable or not, but it likely wasn't the right place for that kind of outburst. My following point still applies. But larger than that, why the fuck are they talking like that to a citizen? A fake. He's not an official yet, so they just called him a sick son of a bitch and an embarrassment? How the fuck is that acceptable for our public officials? Greg Abbott literally said it could have been worse. This is one of the worst school shootings in US history. He is fully justified to say something needs to be done. Abbott is harping about mental health yet won't fund it. "This is no time for political grandstanding," decreed Abbott, a politician, on a grandstand. "I'm from El Paso, Texas. One of the things that people don't know about Beto is that he actually got shit done. He sponsored and co-sponsored bills to actually help Texans, many of them to help increase funding for veterans. But nobody talks about that. I am glad he interrupted that town hall yesterday, and even though I don't live in El Paso anymore, I will be sending him money." If this was just the chief of police, the Uvalde mayor and the principal of the school, I would say his interruption would have been in bad taste. But this was his political opponent using the stage as his own spot to make a stump speech. Abbott literally went on to brag about books he passed 3 years ago and that he would work in the future, read, next term, to make it tougher for this to happen. The moment Abbott mentions laws he's created or will create, he's speaking as a candidate, not as the governor. With that being the case, O'Rourke is not only valid in interrupting, he's technically due equal airtime to rebut. Add in that his point was 100% valid and felt by so many people in the Valley since the El Paso shooting, and he's incredibly justified in his actions. People say Beto was politically motivated, as if Abbott, Patrick, Cruz, and all the other fuckwads who run this state weren't literally sitting on a stage in front of a bunch of cameras to begin with. I say good for him. He's pissed off and so am I. Isn't this what town halls are supposed to be for? It's supposed to be a chance for citizens, which includes Beto, to say what's on their mind. There's nothing wrong with interrupting someone when there is an emergency they're doing nothing about. I don't see the sense in politely letting someone say their lie. Sometimes you gotta do something to get someone's attention. By all accounts, this is a very tame way of doing that, and it speaks to how politically inert our country is that what Beto did is considered rude. Was it politically motivated? Yeah, probably. He's a politician. Do I care? Not at all. Frankly, I'd like it if for the foreseeable future none of these ghouls could get up in front of a mic without someone holding their feet to the fire and calling out their cowardice. I have no idea why this question caught my interest, but here goes. Frankly, I don't know how to feel. On the one hand, I support calling out Governor Abbott over the policies they support. I do believe that we need stronger laws governing gun access, and I believe we need to find a way to address the issues in our American society that create these domestic terrorists. On the other hand, I can't help but draw from my own experience as a survivor of a high school shooting. After the shooting at my high school, the very last thing on my mind was gun control, politics, and how to move forward. I simply wanted to be left alone and grieve everything I and my community lost that day, the life of my friend, the trauma inflicted on myself and my community, and the joy of graduation, to name a few things. During the aftermath, there were two events that stick out in my mind. First, the vigil in honor of the life lost. There were speeches from our local government officials regarding how they would never let something like this happen again. This felt comical. My state has had 28 school shootings in the past 50 or so years, and nothing has slowed or significantly addressed these problems. It felt so patronizing, sitting in this stupid gymnasium. It wasn't even our school, it was still a crime scene, while this far-off man in a suit promised us we would be the last to go through this tragedy. While our representative was making promises and asking our political support for his cause since it was an election year, my classmates and I simply left. Just got up and left. We just wanted to grieve, we wanted to be allowed to grieve in our own way. We held our own informal vigil outside, in the parking lot. It was a beautiful moment, where we constructed a basic memorial for our fallen classmate. The focus was on healing, on grieving, and on what had been lost, not politics. Second, was the phone calls. The emails. The spam. The letters. All this solicitation for money, for votes, for pledges of support. I just wanted to go to our community events, grieve, heal, and support my friends. It honestly disgusted me how shamelessly these gun activist organizations were soliciting vulnerable people for money. Frankly, this pissed me off. It felt so disingenuous, and seemed like they didn't actually care about the cause they supposedly championed. And now, 3 years later, I've started to feel more alive, pick myself up, and move forward. As a part of the future I would like terrorism events like this to be a thing of the past. I wish those politicians could have delivered on their promise my school would be the last. So I feel conflicted. I support the act of holding Governor Abbott's feet to the fire. I want change. On the other hand, I get the don't politicize school shootings thing. I want to give the victims the space and time they need to heal, and when and if they are ready, when and if they want to, they can enter the political arena. I suppose, so long as this act does not blow back on the victims of this tragedy and they are able to grieve at their own pace, good on Beto O'Rourke. But when I put myself in the shoes of these victim families, based on my experience, I simply have no trust in any of these politicians to produce any real change. In light of that distrust, I would rather be left to grieve than trotted out for political theater that won't matter in the end anyways. I found my local politicians to be annoying, rather than helpful or representing me. Certainly, there will be others who feel differently than me. Maybe tragedy like this would energize them and make an activist out of them. The parents of my friend who died are heavily involved in anti-school shooting and gun control activism now. However, they were simply too broken by the loss of their only child to be activists in the immediate aftermath, and only truly became involved about a year after. TLDR, I have really complicated feelings about this incident because I support holding Governor Abbott accountable, but my own experiences make me feel like this is all a political charade that will mean nothing in the end and possibly annoy the victims. Good on him. The whole don't politicize shootings shtick is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. If we had a mandatory silence for a week after every mass shooting, we would never talk about mass shootings because they happen every week. I've got way more respect for him for telling it like it is than you are out of line. Who then proceeded to say we should just trust to God LMAO. I think there's no better time or place to confront an elected official about an issue. Elected officials really are responsible to their constituents, whether they like that uncomfortable fact or not. O'Rourke had every right to call out Abbott and his flunkies for their mealy-mouthed excuses. Edit 05/25, added more school names, started adding dates, adding school bus incidents. Definitely the right move because Thurston High School, Columbine High School, Heritage High School, Deming Middle School, Fort Gibson Middle School, Buell Elementary School, Lake Worth Middle School. University of Arkansas. Junipero Serra High School. Santana High School. Bishop Newman High School. Pacific Lutheran University. Granite Hills High School. Lew Wallace High School. Martin Luther King, Junior High School. Appalachian School of Law. Washington High School. Conception Abbey. Benjamin Tasker Middle School. University of Arizona. Lincoln High School. John McDonough High School. Red Lion Area Junior High School. Case Western Reserve University. Rickory High School. Ballou High School. Randallstown High School. Bowen High School. Red Lake Senior High School. Harlan Community High School. Campbell County High School. Milwee Middle School. Roseburg High School. Pine Middle School. Essex Elementary School. Duquesne University. Platte Canyon High School. Weston High School. West Nickel Mines School. Joplin Memorial Middle School. Henry Foss High School. Compton Centennial High School. Virginia Tech. Success Tech Academy. Miami Carroll City Senior High School. Hamilton High School. Louisiana Technical College. Mitchell High School. E.O. Green Junior High School. Northern Illinois University. Lakota Middle School. Knoxville Central High School. Willoughby South High School. Henry Ford High School. University of Central Arkansas. Dillard High School. Dunbar High School. Hampton University. Harvard College. Laros Cut-Off Middle School. International Studies Academy. Skyline College. Discovery Middle School. University of Alabama. DeKalb School. Deer Creek Middle School. Ohio State University. Mumford High School. University of Texas. Kelly Elementary School. Marinette High School. Aurora Central High School. Millard South High School. Martinsville West Middle School. Worthing High School. Millard South High School. Highlands Intermediate School. Cape Fear High School. Chardon High School. Episcopal School of Jacksonville. Oikos University. Hamilton High School. Perry Hall School. Normal Community High School. University of South Alabama. Banner Academy South. University of Southern California. Sandy Hook Elementary School. Apostolic Revival Christian School. Taft Union High School. Osborne High School. Stevens Institute of Business and Arts. Hazard Community College. Chicago State University. Lone Star College North. Cesar Chavez High School. Price Middle School. University of Central Florida. New River Community College. Grambling State University. Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Ossie Ware Mitchell Middle School. Ronald E. McNair Discovery Academy. North Panola High School. Carver High School. Agape Christian Academy. Sparks Middle School. North Carolina A&T State University. Stevenson High School. Brashear High School. West Orange High School. Arapahoe High School. Edison High School. Liberty Technology High School. Hillhouse High School. Berendo Middle School. Purdue University. South Carolina State University. Los Angeles Valley College. Charles F. Brush High School. University of Southern California. Georgia Regents University. Academy of Knowledge Preschool. Benjamin Banneker High School. D. H. Conley High School. East English Village Prep Academy. Payne College. Georgia Gwinnett College. John F. Kennedy High School. Seattle Pacific University. Reynolds High School. Indiana State University. Albemarle High School. Fern Creek Traditional High School. Langston Hughes High School. Marysville Pilchuck High School. Florida State University. Miami Carroll City High School. Rogers State University. Rosemary Anderson High School. Wisconsin Lutheran High School. Frederick High School. Tenaya Middle School. Bethune-Cookman University. Pershing Elementary School. Wayne Community College. J.B. Martin Middle School. Southwestern Classical Academy. Savannah State University. Harrisburg High School. Umpqua Community College. Northern Arizona University. Texas Southern University. Tennessee State University. Winston-Salem State University. Mojave High School, Lawrence Central High School, Franklin High School, Muskegon Heights High School, Independence High School, Madison High School, Antigo High School, University of California Los Angeles, Jeremiah Burke High School, Alpine High School, Townville Elementary School, Vigor High School, Lyndon McKinley STEM Academy, June Jordan High School for Equity, Union Middle School, Mueller Park Junior High School, West Liberty Salem High School, University of Washington, King City High School, North Park Elementary School, North Lake College, Freeman High School, Mattoon High School, Rancho Tehama Elementary School, Aztec High School, Wake Forest University, Italy High School, Net Charter High School, Marshall County High School, Sal Castro Middle School, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High, Great Mills High School, Central Michigan University, Huffman High School, Frederick Douglass High School, Forest High School, Highland High School, Dixon High School, Santa Fe High School, Noblesville West Middle School, University of North Carolina, Charlotte STEM School, Highlands Ranch Edgewood High, Palm Beach Central High School, Providence Career and Tech Academy, Fairleigh High School, Canyon Springs High School, Dennis Intermediate School, Florida International University, Central Elementary School, Cascade Middle School, Davidson High School, Prairie View A&M University, Altascosita High School, Central Academy of Excellence, Cleveland High School, Robert E. Lee High School, Cheyenne South High School, Grambling State University, Blountsville Elementary School, Prescott High School, College of the Mainland, Winbrook Elementary School, UNC Charlotte, Second Chance High School, Carmen Ainsworth High School, Williwaw Elementary School, Monroe Clark Middle School, Central Catholic High School, Jeanette High School, Eastern Hills High School, De Anza High School, Ridgeway High School, Reginald F. Lewis High School, Saugus High School, Pleasantville High School, Waukesha South High School, Oshkosh High School, Catholic Academy of New Haven, Bel Air High School, North Crowley High School, McAuliffe Elementary School, South Oak Cliff High School, Texas A&M University, Commerce Sonora High School, Western Illinois University, Oxford High School, Humboldt High School November 30, 21. Wilmington Park Elementary School December 6, 21. Ewing Marion Kaufman School December 8, 21. Auburn High School January 4, 22. Chowan University January 9, 22. Valley High School January 11, 22. Seminole High School January 19, 22. Oliver Citywide Academy January 19, 22. COL Zadok Magruder High School January 21, 21. Beloit Memorial High School January 29, 22. South Education Center February 1, 22. Bridgewater College February 1, 22. Catonsville High Schools February 8, 22. Minneapolis, Minnesota Bus February 9, 22. Olathe East High School March 4, 22. East High School March 7, 22. Tanglewood Middle School March 31, 22. Erie High School April 5, 22. Edmund Burke School April 22, 22. University of District of Columbia April 22, 22. Sewanee, Georgia Bus May 9, 22. Walt Disney Magnet School May 17, 22. Robb Elementary School May 24, 22. The fuckers on stage weren't saying anything useful, so it was good to see someone inject human emotion.